अब हामी पढ्न गइरहेको छौँ vascular events occurring in acute inflammation. I've already discussed about inflammation, the cardinal signs of inflammation, and what exactly inflammation is. I've discussed in previous video. So in this video, I'm talking about the vascular events occurring in inflammation. For an example, if some part of the tissue is inflamed, okay, this is hand, and some tissue injury is there, some microbes or maybe some bacteria invaded in this tissue. So what are the things that will happen in this invaded tissue? There is going to be a huge fight between our body system, our WBCs, and those bacteria. So that area is known as the area of inflammation. And we're going to talk about what happens or how that inflammation happens in that area. यो कुरा चाहिँ हामी पढ्दैछौँ इन्फ्लामेसनको प्रोसेसमा. तर फर्स्टको इभेन्टलाई फर्स्ट सिरिज अफ इभेन्ट्स वी कल इट एज भ्यास्कुलर इभेन्ट्स. पहिला सुरु चाहिँ ब्लड भेसल्समा केही चेन्जेसहरू आउँछ अरे. त्यो कस्तो चेन्जेस आउँछ भन्ने कुरा म यहाँ भन्न गइरहेको छु. यो डायग्राम हो एउटा क्यापिलरीको. यो हो आर्टेरियोल, यो हो एक्ज्याक्टली क्यापिलरी. यो एक्सचेन्ज सिस्टम हो. यहाँबाट चाहिँ ग्यासेसहरू र न्युट्रिएन्टहरू एक्सचेन्ज हुन्छ है. एन्ड दिस इज द भेनस साइड. सी, दिस इज द भेन्युल or venual side, arterial side, capillary and venual side. From arterial side there is oxygenated blood coming here, and in this area, up to this area, there is outgoing of the fluid, and from this venual side there is incoming of the fluid. In this way there is prevention of edema outside. कुरा बुझिहाल्छु यहाँसम्म? ठिक छ, एकदम सही हो. यताबाट चाहिँ फ्लुइड बाहिर निस्किन्छ, यताबाट फ्लुइडहरू भित्र निस्किन्छ. नर्मली यो हुन्छ. अनि नर्मली हाइड्रोस्ट्याटिक प्रेसर 35 हुन्छ यतापट्टि आर्टेरियल इन्डमा, र भेनस इन्डमा आइसक्दाखेरि यो चाहिँ 15 मा झरिसक्छ. तर हाम्रो कोलोइडल अस्मोटिक प्रेसर चाहिँ 28 को 28 मै मेन्टेन भइरहेको छ. त्यही भएर यतापट्टि चाहिँ हाइड्रोस्ट्याटिक प्रेसर बढी भएको हुनाले फ्लुइड बाहिर जान्छ. 35 - 28 भएर फ्लुइड बाहिर जान्छ. तर यतापट्टि चाहिँ हाम्रो कोलोइडल अस्मोटिक प्रेसर बढी हुन्छ हाइड्रोस्ट्याटिक प्रेसर भन्दा, त्यही भएर फ्लुइड चाहिँ भित्र आउँछ. यो हामी इडीमा पनि डिटेलमा पढ्छौँ. इडीमामा अहिलेलाई यति कुरा बुझिराख्नु पर्यो. अब हाम्रो इन्फ्लामेसन भयो भने, यहाँ कुनै ब्याक्टेरियाले इन्भेड गर्यो भने के चेन्जेस आउँछ त? नम्बर 1 चेन्ज आउने रहेछ. के भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ नम्बर 1 मा हुने रहेछ आर्टेरियोल डाइलेसन हो. अब यता यो मानम यो टिस्युमा इन्भेड भएको छ. ल, म त्यही कुरा देखाउँछु. यता अलि तलसम्म राखेर मानम यो टिस्युमा हाम्रो यहाँ सेल्सहरू छ र यहाँ चाहिँ इन्फ्लामेसन भएको रहेछ भनेपछि यहाँ त अब ब्याक्टेरियाले इन्भेड गरेको छ हो कि होइन त? ब्याक्टेरियाले इन्भेड गरेको छ. त्यही भएर चाहिँ यो एरियामा चाहिँ ब्लड बडी पठाउनु पर्यो. मैले अघिल्लो भिडियोमा पर्पोज अफ इन्फ्लामेसनमा भनेको छु. वाट इज द पर्पोज अफ इन्फ्लामेसन? द पर्पोज अफ इन्फ्लामेसन इज टु रिमुभ द offending agent, and to remove the offending agent we need to bring WBCs in that inflamed area. So as to bring the WBCs in that inflamed area, so as to bring all the chemical mediators of inflammation and most importantly WBC, we need to send more blood in this capillary network. So to bring more blood in the capillary network, this arteriole needs to be dilated. This one needs to be dilated. So for that, various chemical mediators work for the dilation. They are histamine, prostaglandins, and nitric oxide. These are the most important chemical mediators that work for arteriole dilation. So now arteriole has been dilated, so that will increase the hydrostatic pressure, because more blood. First I will let increase in blood, then I will let hydrostatic pressure. First there is increase in blood volume or blood flow, you can say increase in the blood flow. This will increase the hydrostatic pressure in the capillary system. Then what happens is, see, now in the healthy circulation what happens, I already know. If this tissue was not inflamed, then what happens is there is outflux of the liquid in the arterial side and influx of the fluid from the venous side. But what happens now is, from everywhere there will be outflux of the fluid. Why? Because see, this dotted line shows the increased hydrostatic pressure. Above 35 it gets, normally it is 35, now it gets above 35. So this is the increased hydrostatic pressure. Due to increased hydrostatic pressure, what happens is, now there will be outflux of the fluid from almost everywhere. So there are two things that is going on. First one is increase in the vessel's caliber. See, now vessel's caliber is increased, vascular caliber is increased. Caliber means the diameter is increased. Second thing what is happening is, now due to increased hydrostatic pressure, what happens, there is exudation. What is exudation? Exudation is the escape of fluid from capillaries to tissue. Up to here we are very cleared. Now first is increase in the due to increase in the vascular caliber, these things happened. Next thing what happens is, there is increase in capillary permeability. There is increase in capillary permeability. Now not only the hydrostatic pressure that is high in capillary network due to vasodilation, so due to arterial dilation, but also due to interepithelial gaps. Due to interepithelial gaps also, it is supporting to bring the fluid outside the blood vessels. This is known as exudation. This will cause. Now, I have already talked about exudation. This is the exudation. Now, capillary permeability. Now, what are the things that will increase the capillary permeability? These things we'll talk. Capillary permeability is increased by two ways. First one is endothelial contraction. Those endothelial cells will contract. See, this is the normal endothelial, looks like this. Okay, now if it contracts, then it will look like this one. It will look like this one. So there are gaps now from here and here. There are gaps. Previously there was no gap. Now we have gap. Now we have gaps. These gaps are there. This is known as endothelial contraction. So endothelial contraction, what are the things? Endothelial contraction, what are the things that will lead to endothelial contraction? These are histamine, SBL, it's SBL, bradykinin, and leukotrienes. These are the things that will lead to endothelial contraction. Now another process that will lead to increase in the permeability is endothelial retraction, and this is mediated by interleukin 1 and tumor necrosis factor. So what does retraction look like? Retraction looks like this. It looks like this. Only the sideway is retracted, not the bulging part. It's a bit exaggerated figure. I'll make a bit natural figure. This is endothelial retraction. Okay. Now endothelial contraction, endothelial retraction. Now you might ask me what is the difference between, now this figuratively you have told me about the difference between endothelial contraction and endothelial retraction. But can you tell me what exactly is the difference between endothelial contraction and endothelial retraction? Yes, I can tell you that endothelial contraction is due to contractile protein contraction. There are various contractile protein that is present in the cell. So due to contractile proteins, contraction is happening. But retraction is happening due to the reorganization of cytoskeleton. Same thing. Those filaments and tubules, they are known as cytoskeletons in the cell. If they are reorganized, that will lead to endothelial retraction. This takes time. It takes time. Cytokine production and interleukin production, it takes time. So after sometimes only endothelial retraction happens, but immediately endothelial contraction happens. It's due to contractile proteins will contract, so that will lead to the contraction of whole endothelial cell, that will lead to endothelial contraction and increase in the capillary permeability. So now due to increase in the capillary permeability, what happens is again there will be exudation. So two things I'll write here again. Due to increase in hydrostatic pressure. Now how does hydrostatic pressure increase? You know very well. It is due to arteriodilation. So just if in examination this question is asked, then you just need to write this thing. There is change in vascular caliber and there is change in capillary permeability. In vascular caliber, what happens? There is arterial dilation due to these factors. Due to these factors, there is arterial dilation that will lead to increased blood flow in the capillary system, that will increase the hydrostatic pressure and that will cause exudation. Similarly, capillary permeability is also increased due to interendothelial gaps. Interendothelial gaps due to interendothelial gaps. I'll also write other causes of increased capillary permeability. For now you just write this interendothelial gaps is one of the causes of increase in capillary permeability. Now what happens due to increase in hydrostatic pressure and increase in capillary permeability, what happens is there is exudation. Now we'll discuss some of the more causes of increase in the capillary permeability. We'll discuss some of the more causes of increase in the capillary permeabilities. Now let us write causes of increase in the permeability. First one is same thing, chemical mediated. Same thing. First one is what? First one is due to contraction. Okay, this is due to histamine, bradykinin and leukotriene. Highlight full things, you will get confused. Due to histamine, we already discussed this one, bradykinin and leukotrienes. Second one is due to retraction. It's due to what? Due to interleukin 1 and tumor necrosis factors. We'll discuss the chemical mediators of inflammation. Okay, these all things we'll discuss in another video, that is chemical mediators of inflammation, then we'll be more clear. Second one is due to direct trauma to endothelium. Direct trauma to endothelium. See, if there is directly the trauma to this one, if there is direct trauma to endothelium, some of the bacteria, some of the causes of cell injury can directly injure the endothelium. If the endothelium is directly injured, then directly the fluid will come outside the vessels. So second cause is that one. Let's talk about the third cause of increase in the capillary permeability. This is due to delayed cytokine productions. Example is sunburns. In sunburns, what happens is, what happens in sunburns, I'll tell you briefly. In sunburns, the person is exposed to sun. Okay, what happens? Immediately there is no response. immediately there is no response, but when the person goes to home after a few hours, then there is cytokines production, delayed type, very delayed cytokine production is there. That cytokine production will cause the exudation. What is exudation? Is the escape of fluid from capillary to tissue. And why does exudation is happening? Same things we are talking about, due to increase in the capillary permeability. See, due to two reasons there is increase there is exudation. First one is due to increased hydrostatic pressure. Second one is due to increased capillary permeability. Same thing we are discussing right now, the causes of increase in capillary permeability. What is the another thing? Another cause of capillary permeability is leukocyte mediated endothelial injury. See, by hook or crook there need to be endothelial injury. Now this thing we'll discuss in some other systemic pathology, that whenever leukocytes or WBC, let's simply WBC, when they are attached to endothelium, they get activated, and they cause injury. And they cause injury by oxygen derived free radical plus lysosomal enzymes. Anyhow, they cause injury. What are the other methods? Other method for increasing capillary permeability is due to transcytosis. Now what is transcytosis? I'll tell you this. See, this is the capillary for an example, and there are cells, there are endothelial cells. This is the tissue. Now what is transcytosis is? Transcytosis is, what happens here is, there is the breakage of the cell membrane from here, and there is pinocytosis. Okay, there is pinocytosis of the fluid, and again that fluid gets internalized, and that fluid will again pass from downward like this. So now fluid is inside. This is called vesiculovacular organelle. This is called vesiculovacular organelle. So this is mediated by histamine. Also vesicular endothelial growth factor. These two things mediates transcytosis. Another cause for the increase in capillary permeability is neovascularization. Due to new blood vessel formation, there is very immature endothelial cell. The endothelial cells are very, very immature. So this immature endothelial cells cannot, see, this immature endothelial cell will bring permeability. They cannot prevent permeability. They cannot prevent the exudation. They can't prevent exudation. This mainly happens in diabetic retinopathy. This thing also you will discuss in second year, but for now you need to understand this much. In diabetic retinopathy there is neovascularization, that means the new capillary formation. Okay, in new capillary formation, the new capillaries, they are very, very weak. The endothelial cells are very, very weak. They cannot prevent the exudation, and they are responsible for increasing the permeability. So if there is increasement in the permeability, then there is exudation, there is edema. Exudation itself causes edema. Okay, exudation itself causes edema. So diabetic retinopathy. So these things we talked about, the vascular changes occurring in the in the inflammation. So again I'll just revise for quickly. See, first of all, what happens, there is increasement in the vascular caliber. There is arterial vasodilation due to histamine, PG and NO. Now more blood is entering into the capillary network. There is increasing in hydrostatic pressure. Due to increase in hydrostatic pressure, there is exudation. That's okay. Second thing what is happening is increasement in the capillary permeability. Normally these capillaries are preventing, the endothelial cells are preventing the exudation, but what happens in the inflammation is there is either endothelial contraction or endothelial retraction happening. So this due to endothelial contraction, endothelial retraction due to contractile protein contraction and reorganization of cytoskeleton, this capillary permeability will increase, and both increase in capillary permeability and increase in hydrostatic pressure will lead to exudation. This up to here you need to explain, but for more knowledge you can just know these two, but no need to write in the exam. This thing up to here is enough. For the vascular events, but I've explained to these two. This is from a good source, so now I'm explaining you this because it is from good source, and it will increase your horizon of knowledge. That's why I told you various. Now what are the ways of increasement capillary permeability? Chemical mediated, direct trauma, delayed cytokine production, leukocyte mediated endothelial injury, transcytosis, neovascularization. So up to here we have discussed. There is now what happens up to here. What has happened? There is exudation. Up to exudation is there. Okay, now exudation has already happened. Now what will happen after this, we'll discuss in the cellular events.